Welcome to the Lost Lowdown, podcast 104, with your hosts, Claude and Justin.
What's up, guys?
We are back, and we're not leaving, continuing our Season 1 commentary series with Born to Run, episode 122. So, we already know this episode. I mean, if there's any Kate-centric episode, if it's not Born to Run, I don't know what it is. I mean, It epitomizes her quintessential, maybe character flaw, they might say.
Yeah, and her greatest strength.
And her greatest strength. They're usually one and the same. That's a hallmark of great writing right there. Great storytelling.
Indeed.
So, I think people are pretty familiar with this episode. I remember it not being the best thing ever.
Well,
we're dealing with Kate after all.
Any Kate episode has has a limit, I think, to how good it can really be.
Yeah,
because
I think
at the end of the day, I mean, it's Kate.
It's Kate.
I like her character, but how there's just not. I mean, there's other characters
She's
like
B+.
that.
She's a B+ character.
Yeah.
That's her max that she ever gets to.
Yeah.
And she goes way down.
Yeah, and I don't remember this being one of the worst. I think her first flashback is kind of weird. I kind of feel like they messed up, or I don't know, like they didn't quite know what they were doing with her at the time, because this is the one where they really establish what the character is all about. And the earlier one about staying on the farm with that guy with one arm, I don't know why that rhymes. It didn't really tell us much about her. It was basically just an explanation for why she's on the plane.
Well, it showed that she was a very, more or less a good person.
Yeah, okay.
It gave us some personality traits about her, and then it juxtaposed that with her being on the run. But yeah, this definitely gets more into who she is.
Yeah,
I just remember the one where she's married is the worst one. That's the worst flashback for Kate.
Featuring Nathan Fillion of
I know.
Firefly.
Great casting aside, it was an awful plot line.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the thing. Aside from explaining why she's on the plane, I really feel like that thing of her on the farm is that's like a season 3 kind of flashback. Like that's something you talk about when you just run out of stuff. But I think this one and what Kate did, of course, are really about the stuff that matters.
Yeah.
As far as her backstory goes, they're the things that they build on.
Yeah.
In the later episodes, whereas they never mention, even though she spent 3 months before she got on the plane with him, they never mentioned that Australian farmer guy.
He was the father figure she always wanted, right? I mean,
I know.
She based her whole life around the teachings of that man, didn't she? Or am I making something up? I don't know.
Did. Who knows? They didn't talk about it. So yeah.
I mean, he was missing an arm, and she fulfilled that role. She was his.
She was his arm.
She was his arm.
I'll be your arm, and you can be my daddy.
And he turned her in anyway.
He did, of course. I need the money. Oh.
Which just, I think, re-emphasized, her disdain for her father figures. So.
It's true. She was betrayed by her mom, and
that was like the third father figure that, her stepdad, her real dad, this the farm guy, then her mother. Man, she should be way more messed up than what she is. She can't trust any parental figures. They never have her back when it comes down to it.
Oh, that's right. And the other flashback, she gets 3 this season. The other one was about that plane. and doing the bank robbery. That's another one that like feels weird and not really getting at like the key issues with her. Like that's another like season 3 story.
Or you could rephrase that and say it is getting at the key issues with her. They're just not that deep. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's Kate. These are her key issues.
Yeah.
She needed to get that flame back, and you know, it's Kate. I feel like that should be her TV show. It's Kate.
I feel like the show was always very ambivalent about her, like, because there was sort of the way she was normally portrayed on the island whenever we saw her, and she was pretty much, you know, trustworthy and good and loyal and stuff like that. Like, you know, there's not a lot that's really bad about Kate that we really see. But then, like, sometimes they cut to her flashback and she's just doing this outlandish stuff because she's on the run.
Well, because she's a loner. Yeah, it's like she's ruthless in, you know, in quotes, cunning. You know, I think you have to describe her that way, whether or not she is. You know, just as a character type. And, you know, but when it comes down to it, when she has bigger things to deal with, when she has a group of people that she can fight with and for, she'll do it. She's not a Sawyer. She's not a loner like by default. You know, she was a loner because she was on the run.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to it, she'd rather be with people. She likes people. You know, Sawyer was kind of the other way, where, you know, he's a loner because he didn't like people. You know, that, and he, you know, con people, and he had you know, he's not like Kate. You know, that's the whole thing. Like, they're very different, even though they come from a similar place of being sort of you know, lovable villains or whatever, or, you know, people who do bad things, but you're supposed to kind of like them anyway.
Right.
You know, and Kate's bad thing was just, you know, never that bad. I mean, for what? I mean, yeah, she killed the guy, okay. But
yeah, I feel like that's the thing that separates her from, you know, a more normal character. Like, it is like, it is an extra step to, like, instead of just running away from home or, you know, whatever, like, reporting into the police or something, like, you know, she actually, like, blows her house up to kill the guy. Like, that's, you know, it's a little extra step that kind of separates her from a normal person. But
no, she's one step closer towards evil.
Yeah.
But she has all these other, but that's not her natural predilection, right? Like, if her mother wasn't in that situation, she never would have done it.
She has to be pushed into it, but it's still, like, it's not something, you know, like, I don't think Sun would do that, for example.
She's not a killer. Well, are you forgetting, like, later season Sun? Like, Sun, when she can rise to a challenge, I don't know, but
maybe Sun grew into that or something as a character progression. But I think as
that's what I'm saying. Like, as she stands, and definitely in the beginning, way. But
in the beginning, I think, you know, she was willing to just sort of.
She's Pike's daughter, man. I mean, she's got it in there somewhere. You just don't want to make her, bring it out.
That's true. It's repressed, so when it comes out, it's sharp.
Yeah, sharp and misdirected.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, well, let's jump into Born to Run, and we'll see if it's as interesting as our conversation about it has been.
I hope so.
Everyone get your players ready, and we will sync up here.
Okay.
Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, go.
The cornfields of Hawaii.
That Hawaiian corn is pretty tasty, man. No luau is complete. Well, who's this blonde? This must be Claire. We got the wrong episode. This is Claire before she had the baby. Before she was pregnant.
This is one of the things that Lost does a lot.
And she's a license plate salesman.
Like, they try to hide their face. And
they love it. it always looks fake.
I guess when you don't know what's going on, maybe for a second you don't know who this is, but in retrospect, it just seems really painfully obvious what they're doing.
Yeah. I think Evangeline Lilly just has too much hair to put a wig on.
So much hair.
Right? Because that wig just looks like a wig.
It does.
Like, they're not even trying.
Yeah. Yeah. Are we? That's interesting. Like, I wonder if we're supposed to think that's Claire.
She's got didn't Claire have her hair like that?
She kind of does. I mean, it's close enough.
I think they're trying to pull it off a little bit.
Is she touching it up? Oh, okay.
No,
She's washing it.
That's how you pretend to die in a wig.
That was supposedly dye?
Yeah.
They should have just had her take the wig off, man.
No, see, that's the thing. They're trying to say that she had dyed her hair blonde. Now she's dyeing it black. Versus she's naturally dark hair and was wearing a blonde wig.
Oh my God! What does her hair really look like? Is it a mystery?
Yeah. I think I assume she put it back to the regular color.
Okay.
I think this is her real color. And it was to say that she was blonde for a while.
Okay.
But I agree. They would have should just had her. It's kind of like the inverse of Mulholland Drive with the whole wig thing.
Oh yes.
All right, why is she crying? What happened?
Oh no, she's reading a note.
Did she just realize she could have just wore wigs this whole time instead of going to the trouble of dyeing her hair? She's looking at her credit card bill and it's all dye, hair dye, and wigs. Oh, maybe not. Maybe it's something sentimental.
I love it. She's still got the plane. She forgets the shit out of that plane later.
Yeah, it's not about the plane anymore.
So not.
Allow me to brag about my former success.
You're not coming back alive, Charlie. Don't worry.
He should tell stories about taking the ring to Mordor. Just to pass the time.
No helicopter. Don't talk about helicopters.
You should never mention the H word, Charlie. And I don't mean heroin.
Oh my God, bad guy.
Oh no.
Holy shit.
This is, ladies and gentlemen, I would say the first in a long line of superfluous characters who made a big impact because of how superfluous they were.
This motherfucker is there in the afterlife. He will not go away.
It's him. It's Frogurt. It's Nikki and Paulo.
Yep.
They're all. He is the beginning of a whole trend of people who come on like, oh, these guys are going to be really important. No.
Yeah. They're not important, but they keep showing up being unimportant.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole thing. It's not that they're just unimportant, because there's a ton of characters who are like that.
Yeah.
But it's just weird. They're there too much.
Yeah.
He's so convincing.
I know. When I bought this, I totally believed him.
Yeah, totally.
I was like, oh, this guy, he knows. They need to listen to him. And it's a contrivance. It's a reason for them to launch as soon as possible. You know?
Exactly. You're totally right. It's the reason they launch now instead of waiting.
Yeah.
And honestly, another route they could have gone, is to say, he's an other, and the others wanted them to launch so they could still waltz.
So they could still waltz, totally. Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, they're out there looking for him. I don't even know how they knew he was on that raft.
Oh, geez.
I mean, not to get too crazy, but they have no. Ethan's dead. They have no infiltrator.
They really should have some spy, though. I mean, they don't, because they never told us that, but they should.
I agree. They should, especially after Ethan's dead.
I guess they're just kind of watching from a distance.
Yeah, I guess that's what you're supposed to believe. But it's weird that they really never tell us how they know who's going to be on the raft and when, and
Maybe they just got lucky.
Yeah, it's like they're clearly out there looking for him, but like that requires knowledge. They can't just randomly go out in the middle of the night.
Raft full. Can't sit here. Can't get rescued here. Raft full.
I mean, Kate's not that heavy. Couldn't she just fit? I mean, would it really be that bad?
Well, she could cut her hair and lose like 10 pounds, but
she's never going to do that.
No, she'll stay on the island.
That's a deal breaker.
2? I'm doing this for him.
Yeah, 2? Oh, Michael.
Man, what you're going to do to get him to safety?
It only leads to tragedy.
It only leads to him being damned for all eternity.
Yep. God.
All right, Kate's all dressed up. She's got some flowers. Where's she going?
Oh, I remember this. Oh, God.
This is going to end well.
Yeah.
She has them in a vase, too. It's a pretty nice bouquet. I'm taken by it for some reason.
It's very colorful.
Yeah. It is just big enough to hide her face. Man,
hair
police really do their job, don't they?
They do. That's what we're learning.
Is this Jack in a younger day? Oh, it's not. I just realized he looks like Michael J. Fox. Like Marty McFly. He turns.
Oh yeah, I can see it.
Mhm.
He's a Michael J. Fox type.
Yeah, totally. Uh-oh.
Don't talk to me. I'm tying something.
That's not what she wanted to hear, Jen.
Don't worry, son. He's never going to leave that island.
And when he does, you'll be with him. It's like, no. I'm really not sure it is. God, man, this is it. This is it.
This is it.
This is it. Do you know where we're going? This is, I mean, like, if the show stops here, it changes everything. It changes everything. But once Jack sees this, this is it. This is the beginning of a whole, we're going down the rabbit hole, literally.
Yep.
And just FYI, you guys were there in the 70s before when it was built. Some of you guys.
You already tried to blow that up.
Exactly. You already tried. Oh, man.
It's weird to know stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's something you could have just never guessed when originally watching this. Like, Jack already saw, 30, 40 years before. He tried to blow that up. It's only there because he didn't blow it up.
Exactly.
Star Trek reference.
Mm-hmm.
You can't catch fish.
Have you caught any fish, Sawyer?
He doesn't care about catching fish. I mean, if he can eat them, but he doesn't want to go fish himself.
Mickey?
What? Mickey Mouse? Like, did they vote people off on the Mickey Mouse Club or something?
Yeah, I don't get that reference. That's weird.
You're going to vote me off, Mickey? I mean, I would get a Survivor reference, but I don't know a Mickey on Survivor.
Yeah, I don't either.
Golly eyes.
I like my odd golly eyes.
I love the music.
I know, it's creepy. Ooh.
Yeah.
He knows our dirty secrets.
I love this. It's like, Kate, you haven't thought this through.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, I haven't.
She never was very good about that.
No, that's her born to run thing. It's really not like she's born to run. It's just that she's eager to run. Like she gets excited. Oh, a chance to do something. I'll do that.
Yeah.
Oops, I got caught.
It's not about the consequences.
No, it's never about the consequences. Oh, it's a great line. You gotta hand it to that. That's one of her best lines ever. I want your spot. I'll get your spot. I'm a spot getter, you see.
Yeah, because up until then she's playing innocent, and then suddenly it's like, no.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take your spot.
Yeah, she dropped the all golly eyes, didn't she?
She did. Those are not the all golly eyes.
That was a cool little scene. Yeah, he pushed her to go dark. That was cool.
Yeah.
He should have said, because Jacob told me. That would have been random. It's evil, Walt. Unless it's a time barrier. Uh-oh.
Oh, no. Somebody poisoned Mickey.
Somebody poisoned Mickey. Mickey got poisoned. Acting 101 right there.
Yeah.
I have a pain.
Go Walt. Use your protection powers. Don't run.
Right. Bring in the birds.
Uh-oh. Is Kate going to see the hatch?
Gonna hatch it up. Long enough to dig it out, Jack. How many days do you think it took to do that?
That's a lot of work, man.
It is a lot of work.
They don't have shovels either.
You build a trebuchet.
Does that dig holes?
No, but it took a lot of time.
Good point. Ooh. Here's a pissing contest at the beginning
there
of
it.
It's
there
like,
it is.
Hey, what about you doing this? Well, what about you doing that?
It's all about perspective.
And then that's the argument. That's the end.
And that's the end.
You did this, I did that, nobody wins.
Yeah.
Or everybody loses.
Yeah, everybody loses.
I love it. So he's like, what?
Yeah, he's playing like that. He's like, let me get someone who's rational and pragmatic. I'm going to get Jack. He's going to talk this crazy guy out of it.
And then he's like, hey, we should get in there.
Yeah. I'm surprised Sayid, I mean, he obviously has to play the scene that way because of the drama, but, like, as a man of science, I'd expect him to be curious. He's like, there could be supplies in there, there could be technology in there.
Oh, yeah.
He sort of could easily, he could easily want to go in there.
That's true. She didn't see the hatch.
Oh, just
what are you doing out here, by the way?
Rocks.
Broken glass.
Poison. I don't know. It was a jug with 3 X's on it and a skull and crossbones. It was tasty.
Ooh, put a cloth on my neck.
Yeah, that's a medical cloth, all right? You can only doctors know how to make that. That's a whole year of medical school. It's cloths.
Breathe. Just breathe.
Just breathe. That's all you have to do. That's the other year of medical school. Breathing.
Oh, he's got a family, Kate. Look what you're about to do.
You're about to ruin his family.
It's a baby.
And he likes babies.
Look at the baby.
He liked that baby.
You like babies, don't you, Kate?
Mm-mm-mm. Are you willing to die for him?
Okay, so she got in his car, and now she's just, like, hanging out in his house.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were just going to go straight to her mom's room, but no, they went home.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I don't think Kate went in the mom's room, right? That was the whole point of that scene, like the cop was outside.
Yeah, okay, cop's outside. That's why she needs his help.
Yeah, and that's...
I see.
That bomb we buried. You know, Jughead. That'd be great.
Okay, so...
It's a great tree, man.
That is quite a tree.
Yeah.
Hawaii, man.
Hawaii.
And there's this random, like, deer running around in the background.
That's his farm, I guess, or somebody's farm.
Yeah. So my conclusion, I guess it makes sense. Her mom's in the hospital. Like, this is like her hometown.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, otherwise, you know, they buried this thing out there when they were kids. So.
Yeah. Otherwise, they got to be where they were when they were kids.
Yeah. I guess I never quite put that together. I sort of imagined her being in some big city.
Isn't that weird that she went to her hometown as her, I guess, original look? Wouldn't she want to not look like herself?
You would think so.
See, that's what you get when they try to fake you out. They totally ruin the logic of that whole thing of her changing identities.
Yeah, it's just a cheap thing to fool you at the beginning. It was the water bottle.
Wow, good thing that just happened to leave a residue. And he just happened to find it.
It's pretty random. As long as there's cloth on my head, I'm fine.
Oh no, it's gonna die! You took the cloth off.
Not really.
No, we just gave each other hand jobs. We're cool. We're cool now.
I don't know, Michael. Did you poison yourself?
And you never will be.
It wasn't Sawyer.
Bamboo duty? Bamboo duty? How did they write that line?
Yeah, I have no idea.
This is like CSI, The Island. Like they're like two cops, you know, old school, close to retirement, and here's the young buck, and they got different ways of solving the crime.
Yep. Steve, Really, Hurley?
Mm-hmm.
I thought Steve died.
John, like, everything Jack just does is just proving his point.
Yep.
Because when Jack says, you didn't tell us about this after 3 weeks, he's really saying, you didn't tell me about this?
Mm-hmm.
That's all that matters. Like,
that's
if Locke would have told Jack, it would have been fine.
Yeah. Yeah, then Jack could say, oh, we shouldn't tell the others.
Exactly, until we know what it is.
Yeah.
Based on a true story. Monster eats the pilot.
Track 2? Like, he's writing an album?
He's writing an album of island adventures.
Wow.
I think track 1 was like plane crashes. Plane crashes on an island. You know, it's plane crashing in parentheses on an island. Track 3 will be, I found some drugs again. Oh, man. Track 7 or 8 is like, Claire's going to get on a helicopter.
I meet a Scottish guy who sees me dying all the time.
That one's called Deja Vu, all right? All right, now we're digging.
All right.
I hope they find something interesting, like
yeah,
buried
what's
treasure.
the mystery? I can't wait to find out what's in that hole.
There's two holes we're waiting to figure out what's in them, right?
Yep.
This is totally parallel with the hatch digging.
It is. That line was confirmation there in Iowa.
Oh, here we go.
Did you guys drink beers out here when you were like 13?
Yep. This is exactly what they did when they were kids. Same brand. I hit a really loud rock.
It wasn't that deep.
No, they're kids. They're going to dig all day.
Yeah. You know, I always wanted to do something like this, but it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to dig a hole. It's hard to, like, remember where it is. Oh, shit. That's the lunchbox that she steals at the end of season 5.
Oh, the lunchbox from the store when she was a girl?
Yeah, that Jacob gets her out of in trouble for.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He's behind all of this.
I know, this is all Jacob's doing.
And then I want you to make a memento box. That shot is weird. It's so foggy, it looks like a set.
It might be.
Yeah, maybe it is a set. But, like, yeah, I don't know. That stuff in the background just looks kind of fakey.
Mm-hmm.
But it might be real. Sometimes the real stuff looks fake. Oh, Kate wanted to run?
Yeah, this is the like confirmation that she's always been born to run. Funny, I think it turned out I have a perfect life and you don't.
Oh, Tom, I'm not going to think about you after this season.
cheating on his wife.
He is. And his baby.
This is what Kate does to people.
Yep.
And his baby. You're betraying the baby.
They don't want him kissing strange ladies.
Unless they'll breastfeed him.
She's not doing that.
She's not going to do that.
See what I mean? Like that fog in the background is like...
That's coming out. I mean, that's not real fog. That's a smoke machine.
Yeah, that's why it looks fake, probably.
Yeah, totally. I've never seen that. Like, usually when there's fog, it's in the whole sky, not just low on the ground like that.
Exactly.
Yes, I feel pain. Now it makes me think he's lying. He came to tell Locke that he didn't poison his dad.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Locke's like his priest or something.
Yeah, well, he's got a complex about his own morality now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when bad things happen, he's worried people might think it's him.
Uh-oh. Don't what, Walt?
Don't what?
Thing?
Don't open my heart?
That's
So
that's really vague, Walt. Could you say more?
Yeah. So, I mean, that was obviously because he touched him. Like, as soon as he touched him, he said that. So we're getting a... What's the Stephen King version? Dead something?
The Dead Zone.
The Dead Zone, yeah.
That's exactly what that was like. It's like he touches him and he sees his future or something.
Yeah.
And it's relating to opening that thing.
You ain't done with me.
I'll tell you when you're done with me. Uh-oh. Well done, Charlie.
Mm-hmm. Isn't Michael holding the wrong side? Like, it was his right side at first.
Oh, you're right. Continuity error.
He's faking. Like, nobody poisoned him. He's just faking.
He just doesn't want Sully on the raft.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh.
But that wouldn't make any sense for her to poison the guy who built the raft.
Considering
he knows how to make it work.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the idea is just it will float, but still, if anything happens, he built it. We're going to leave her in the hallway so her daughter can come.
So, did she actually do it? Now I'm getting confused.
I don't remember who did it, actually, so this will be a fun mystery.
Okay, all right, yeah, because I'm thinking, well, maybe she did it just to frame Sawyer so she would get his spot.
Well, yeah, I kind of forget who did it.
Like, I think she did it, but I don't remember.
Or maybe it was like nobody did it. and he just had a stomachache.
I really wish that were true. Oh, false alarm, guys. It's gone. so sick right now, but she's going to be fine.
Mm-hmm. Who speaks my name?
God, she looks like a zombie.
She looks like she's evil. Like, she's gonna, like...
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's a scary face. Mom, you're scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes.
I want your soul.
I know.
Where's your blonde hair? Maybe she's supposed to be blonde.
I know. Look at her mom. Could that be true? Like, is she a natural blonde?
No, because it would have grown out by the time she's on the island.
Yeah,
and her blonde hair would have come in at some point.
Unless she kept dyeing it. But yeah, no, of course. That can't be true.
Who brings a crate load of hair dye on an airplane?
Thank God for hair dye smugglers.
It's a $1 billion industry. It's a $1 billion industry.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
Bammo. I mean,
it's a bad way to handle it.
They set it up later, and they try to explain why her mom does that, but I don't know. I just
think they're overreacting. Who called the cops? It's fine. Like, I just don't understand. Like, how do we go from 0 to 100 right now? Like, this is insane. Like, they're in a car chase. Like, I don't get it.
The cops are there, man.
What is it? Why? Because a lady in the hospital said, "Help me."
That's it. That's all it takes. No, they had the cop watching her, so I feel like there's supposed to be a general thing about her.
Yeah, it's just weird.
And like the alarm went off, and Kate's wanted, man. Everybody wants her. But I really feel like the main thing that it does.
This is so bad. She's just gonna charge forward.
Yeah, it's a pretty bad idea. Kate is not, she's not into thinking about consequences.
No, she really isn't. She just let go of the wheel.
Yeah.
She's so, like, reckless.
You happy now? See, I feel like the main thing is that it continues to build up mystery about what she did.
Yeah, yeah.
She seems like a nice lady, but why is her mom screaming for help? Like, she must be evil. Yeah. Like, she must have done something really bad. And I don't know. Like I get that her mom...
Like, leave her friend dying in a car that she just crashed?
Yes. I get that her mom, like, didn't want her to kill the guy, but I don't buy that her mom's actually afraid of her, that she actually thinks she's in danger from her or something.
Yeah. You did it.
You did it. You're not going to jail, Kate. Don't worry.
No, you'll be fine. Let me get close and prove it.
Oh, she didn't do it.
No, she didn't do it.
Okay. Wow, I don't remember who did it.
I forget too. Something makes me think it's like Sun, but.
Oh my God, is it Sun?
It's somebody who you're not supposed to expect.
Is Sun like trying to keep Jen there? Is that why she did it?
There it is.
That would make sense. I love Claire hiding her baby.
Claire's like, don't look at my baby anymore. Nobody cares.
Don't put your dirty criminal eyes on my baby. Look at that plane, Kate.
It's just a toy.
Why is it sitting there? Oh, I guess they dumped her stuff out.
Mhm.
What is that?
I think that's part of the cargo part of the plane.
Oh, okay.
The cargo hold or something.
I see.
They just happen to keep it just in case.
Oh, yeah. It's looking like, sun's looking likely.
Mhm. Because it had to be somebody who either had access to medicines or knew about how to do it.
Does Michael ever find out his son poisoned him?
Maybe. She's probably gonna. He wasn't poisoned that bad.
Yeah, but it's weird.
She'll just say sorry. Oh, she meant to poison her husband.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, she was trying to poison Jen, so he wouldn't go. Okay.
That's why it's a good twist, because you don't expect because you're thinking, who wants to poison Michael? Well, nobody wants to poison Michael.
Yeah.
You could have asked him to stay.
That makes sense.
Did you start with asking him not to go?
You know what, son? I feel like this takes away a little bit of your self-righteousness later when you get mad at Charlie for kidnapping you and all that stuff. Like, you know, people do stuff, and sometimes it hurts others, and, you know, but they have their reasons.
They didn't mean it to. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. You know, maybe you should think about this when you're slapping Charlie in the face later.
She won't, don't worry.
I know she won't. But I forgot about this completely. Like, it's just as we're talking about how Sun is like, you know, not
doing man. She's got it in her. She's got it in her. She's a Pike. She's a Pike.
Wow. I didn't do nothing.
Sailing on a raft, that's what cowboys do. He doesn't have to get too far in a corner before he feels cornered.
Yeah, it's funny. His whole thing about revealing Kate, like, it was kind of pointless because she didn't really do it. But I guess, you know, it got him his spot back, so.
Yeah. My daddy was a raft. Oh, nothing worth staying for.
That hurt, Sawyer. That hurt.
It's not going to hurt that much.
You're not going to think that later.
This is season 1. They barely know each other. I mean, one day he's going to forget her face completely, so, you know.
Good point.
Oh, man, he won't be able to recall what she looked like.
Forgot about that.
Blur.
Heal him, Walt. Come on.
Is he, like, drunk or medicated? Michael seems out of it.
Yeah, he does. I mean, I think he's supposed to be, like, kind of recovering from the poisoning, but
yeah,
he's a little slurry.
Mhm. Did he say he burned the first raft?
Yeah, he just admitted that he burned the first raft.
Oh wow. See, he's too tired to beat him.
Yep.
Walt knows what he's doing. He's like, this is the best.
Back, boy.
Walt's so smart. He's like, this is the best time I can tell him because, like, he can't chase me if he tries to hit me. Oh, it's great.
And here's another thing that, like, drives me crazy.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have
get
to
out of here.
Oh, yes, we do.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Cue the
really?
music. Yeah.
Yeah, cue the ominous music. It's like, I don't know. What frustrates me about it is he's so vague. Like, I really don't even know exactly why he's saying that.
Yeah. And
I feel like, you know, for those of us who've watched the entire show, like, why don't we know that?
Don't go there. Don't go there. Don't go there.
Only trying to what you?
Yeah, she said it.
I broke a glass ballerina.
Oh, no. I mean, that's kind of like what you would expect from a sort of real-life version of this, right? Is that they would kind of tell stories, and then we would later see those stories.
Yeah.
Because since those are the most impactful things, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But it never works out that way.
Ever. It feels like, oh, that was lost? Oh, my God.
Wow. What did they end on?
I don't even know. I want you to listen.
I missed it.
All right.
I didn't think that was going to be the final scene.
I didn't either. All right, I'm going to quickly rewind. I got to know what the last line was.
Oh, Sun says when she found the man she loved, she'd be happy. Oh, forever. Well.
Me too. Okay, that's it, huh? Really? Man, these endings. You know, I always think of Lost as having those really great, gotcha endings. But man, that was a.
Well, you know, here's what's weird about that. Like, she's talking about the dude in Iowa. Okay, right? Like, isn't that what we're supposed to connect to? Like,
yeah, that's what it seems like.
Okay, but here's what happened, Kate. In case you missed it. Like, you left as kids and never talked to him again. And then, right? And
yeah, that's what happened.
And then you came back in his life randomly one day, used him to see your mother again, then got him killed. And where in that period was your hope that when you found the man you loved, you'd be happy forever? I didn't like, where was that 30-second window, like, at? That's so weird. You know, like,
yeah, it doesn't work. It seems like it's one of those things where Sun's story just doesn't match up with Kate's well enough to really compare them.
Yeah, or Kate is just placating Sun and going, yeah, whatever, me too. Like you know, it's just, but it's a weird way to end that episode.
But I think they want us to buy it because they try to put, you know, by putting it at the end, like they're putting weight on it. Like I think
they want us to buy it, but it really should have been like the guy wasn't married. He had always held a candle for Kate. She finally comes back. And he helps her because he thinks they're going to live their life together after this.
Yeah.
You know, they reconnected with their childhood thing. And then he gets her killed. I mean, she gets him killed. And then I could see, okay, yes, her long-lost love or whatever she tries to reconnect to, she thought she could have a future, and now he's dead. Then I would buy how they end it. But that's not what happened. Like, he had a family. He wasn't ever going to leave them.
Right.
You know, this was just, you know, she was really just using him to see the mom. I mean, she was only in town to see the mom. You know,
yeah.
It's just, that's the thing they do that a lot.
She wasn't there to see him. She never went back to see him any time
No,
so
she didn't. She wasn't ever. I mean,
it's like
yeah,
if it was that important, like.
Yeah, and she only cared about the airplane thing afterwards.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. The airplane got sentimental value because she got him killed.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I feel bad about that now, but before that, you know, would she have cared as much about the plane? Like, probably not.
Well, okay, I'll give him credit. I think Sun said when she was a little girl she thought that.
Right.
So I'll buy that. That goes to Kate when she was the little girl with him or something. But
yes,
it's just it's.
Yeah, it's a little strange. Like they, I don't know. It's a writing thing you want to do. You want to like make those.
Yeah, because you can get away. You can get away with it.
Yeah.
Unless it's people like us who have seen it 20 times and we're looking at every detail and going, wait a minute.
That episode was all right. I think that compared to The Greater Good, I think it had a better plot structure by far.
It's better than The Greater Good.
Yeah.
I mean, the little mystery of who poisoned Michael was fairly well done. But
I think that actually had some dramatic weight to it where I actually cared, because it seems like it matters. I mean, they're trying to leave the island, like
it did matter. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff. Jack sees the hatch for the first time.
Yeah.
Walt gets a clairvoyant premonition for the first time.
Yes.
This had some stuff going. I mean, it is pre-finale, so it has that going for it, but.
That's true, but it just stands out for having it felt more cohesive too. It felt more like the episode was pointed in a direction instead of just a bunch of random stuff happening.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that was it for Kate episode, man. Or maybe I just had fun watching it because we were laughing at it most of it, but it was good. Yeah. I mean, again, as usual, there's a ceiling. I mean, it wasn't great, but like there's a ceiling.
It had some conventional sort of mystery quality that made it work, I think.
Yeah, totally.
And so, I would say that was decent. It was a better ramp up, I think, for the finale than the previous one was. But as you said, it sort of makes sense. Like they are getting, I meant to mention ours, when he gives this whole speech, I'm sort of conflicted about whether when they did that they knew that it was a lie, or whether at any point did they ever have plans to actually have a monsoon come into the island, I wonder if they ever thought that they were actually going to do that, or if they knew from the beginning that it's not going to happen.
My own philosophy is I think they didn't. I don't think they. I would imagine they didn't write it in there originally knowing he was lying. They thought he was most likely telling the truth, and when they never needed to or wanted to have a monsoon, and the opportunity came to address his prediction, that they just went to say, "Oh, he didn't know what he was talking about."
Right.
I think that seems to be the most logical way that they would write it, because that's what they do when it comes time to explain themselves. They go, "Oh well,
I guess he overreacted."
He overreacted. They just take the path of least resistance, whatever.
Yeah.
So I feel like they were, because I think it's weird to write. It would be weird to me to think that they came up with this character who was going to tell them that a monsoon was coming, and they specifically knew he was lying about. That's an extra quality to add, and why would you add that in terms of how you're writing the character's motivation and never exploit that later? Never sort of make that an issue with this character until you're explaining his thing not being true. You know what I mean? They didn't ever show afterwards that he was a liar, or he was, he didn't know what he was talking about, until the moment they have to explain it. So I would imagine, he's just a functional tool to get them to go on the raft as soon as possible. And you know, I mean, I think they kept things like maybe a monsoon in their back pocket. You know, I mean, what's a monsoon? But some really a bad rain and wind. So they might have been like, yeah, we might need that at some point or whatever. But it's not the kind of thing I think you have to really plan for. There's no big like story structural point with the monsoon. It's just going to be, some weather conflict and that's about
right. It. But like if that happened, they'd have to incorporate it into the story somehow. Because it would.
Well, I mean, but it's only relevant to the story in terms of how people react to it. You know, it'll be, oh, we can't do this because there's a monsoon, or we're hiding out here because there's a monsoon.
Right.
Or, we have to move this stuff. But it's not a sort of proactive story point.
I remember going into season 2, like, I really thought that was coming. I was like, oh, the monsoon's going to be here soon, and like, it was a while before I was like, yeah, I think they're not going to do the monsoon.
That monsoon became Mon later, and then Mon never. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be here all week.
Wow, what a pun. I think once we went through, like, how long will it take to train an army and all that stuff, like, I started to realize that they were perfectly willing to set up big things and drop them.
They should have been like, we can't train this army. There's a monsoon coming.
Exactly. And another thing that pops into my head about this is, and like, I don't want to be outrageous. I don't want my expectations. Look, I know they're not writing. This isn't a comic book movie. It's not about superheroes or anything. They're not going to sit there.
What?
They're going to sit there.
What have I been watching?
They're not going to sit there and explain in some explicit detail what Walt's powers are, but, it just strikes me watching this that, like, this, the thing they have him doing here, which a combination of, like, he touches Locke's hand and then he seems to have some kind of premonition, and then he tells Michael, like, yeah, they have to leave. It seems like he has some vague, like, I don't know, precognition or something about what's going to happen. It's weird because, like, what does that have to do with, like, drawing birds to yourself or, appearing in other places,
Nothing.
Nothing, exactly.
Well, none of his powers are symmetrical. I mean, none of them really line up. They're all various, things just are in his, pocket of power.
Yeah, it's just like, and then they're just like, well, he's special. He's special. He can do that because he's special. It's like, okay, fine, but I don't know. Can you just have him do any random thing you think of, and then just say he's special?
Well, it's like again, I'll go back to Stephen King since they are influenced by him. Look at The Shining, like. The Shining, as we saw, was, he had the ability to, he had telepathy basically, but they could also see dead people. So, those are kind of not the same things, but all part of the same power. So maybe that's what they did with Walt. They're like, hey, let's give him like random powers that don't align with each other.
Right.
But no, I mean, I don't think it was that cognizant on their part. I think they just gave him whatever they wanted.
But I feel like Stephen King tried to explain that, like, The Shining was a kind of, extrasensory perception that, allowed you to both communicate with other people who could do it as well as, like, see these sort of ghosts of the past and stuff like that. Like, I feel like they sort of unified it. Like, it's a kind of skill.
I mean, sure. But it manifests itself in different ways that aren't, like, aligned,
Yeah.
Like talking to someone alive isn't the same as seeing someone who's dead.
But, like, when we hear the big exposition from the cook at the beginning about what The Shining is, like, he directly states, like, one of the things that people who have this ability can do is, like, see these leftover, like, memories from the past. So it's set up, like, right from the beginning that that's what his powers are, and that's what we see for the rest of the movie. They don't just randomly have him, like, manifest other powers,
Well, yeah, I mean, Yeah, and it's different on Lost, of course, because there's no one to tell Walt what his powers are.
Right.
You know, like he doesn't get to have that mentor scene where somebody's like, I've been through this before, and here's what you can expect.
Right.
So yeah, we never get that didactic kind of explanation of what's going on. So they can just roll with the punches and do whatever they want when they need to, and
Yeah.
It's but yeah, that's the thing. He never, and he almost like never repeats a power, right? Once he
yeah,
uses
exactly.
It. Well, and I'll say, I mean, I guess we can maybe say the dream that he had later when he saw Locke on the beach is sort of a clairvoyant thing. So
yes. Yeah, well, and they have the Mobisode where they show him with the others, and they show the birds, the dead birds outside. So that was a repeat, of the
yeah.
So they repeated a couple of powers, I guess, but in general, like it just feels like, I don't know. I think within the context of season 1 and what they've told us so far, it feels like they're expanding his powers. The stuff they told us before is just being added to, and it's building up this like mystery of like what's up with him. And I feel like it crescendos when he gets taken by the others.
Yeah, I get the sense his powers like were coming as soon as he was getting closer to this focal point, things were going more and more, out of control.
Yeah, and it continues into season 2. Shannon starts seeing him, and we hear this stuff about the others with him, and there's that Mobisode and stuff. So it's like, I don't know. It feels like it builds and builds and builds, and there's this like breaking point of like, oh my God, what's up with Walt? That's good. That's a really cool mystery. And then it's just gone. It's just nothing.
They missed a really great chance to have Walt and a great Walt Michael storyline where it's something like everything happens the same. They get off the island together and all that stuff, but then like once Michael goes back and dies, Walt keeps up his powers and uses them, and so by season 6 he teleports to the island. Walt, how did you get here? And he's, I have my ways, or whatever.
Yeah.
And he comes back to find his dad, and he ends up, rescuing Michael from purgatory. I just think that just would have made that season so much better and given his character, something to really have for longevity. Both of them really.
Yeah.
Something because they set it all up. There's no reason why when Locke sees Walt, when he's older, the Walt could have easily said, yeah, I had this dream. You're standing on a beach and people were after you. I've been working on my powers, or whatever. And then he just shows up some point in season 6, I'm here for my dad. Where is he? That would have been crazy.
Totally, but it's kind of like a throwaway line, and it bothers me because he's kind of wrong. It's not,
it's someone who looks like Locke.
Yeah, but that makes it weird to me. I'm he had a dream about the Man in Black on the island. I just find that so odd.
Well, I think I always imagine he basically saw the future. He as if he sort of mentally teleported to that point where Locke, Man in Black is staying, and he'd accurately describe what he saw. He just didn't know that it was someone who looked like Locke and not actually Locke.
Right. Yeah, I see. But it just seems like, I don't know. I just feel like there's something wrong with that story. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it.
Is it along the lines of Claire's going to get in a helicopter?
It is very much along those lines. I mean, first of all, I feel like in this episode and earlier in season 1, there's a Locke and Walt connection. The general idea seems to be that Locke is a surrogate father figure who's willing to embrace Locke's or Walt's, God damn it, Walt's
See?
Walt's like strange abilities and, try to like, get him to develop them or something. I feel like that's a vague idea of what their relationship is in season 1. And, once he leaves, like it kind of gets derailed, but I feel like him appearing to Locke, in the Dharma pit and saying, you have work to do and get up, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it wasn't Walt, though.
I know, it wasn't Walt, but...
All right, go ahead.
But, before we knew that it wasn't Walt, I thought it was Walt. And it seemed like a further development where there's this like Walt Locke, like protect the island kind of connection thing.
Yes.
Where like we both are gonna sort of realize our, potential here.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna work together to make that happen. Like,
man, the show you're describing sounds great.
Well, I feel like they set that up, and they even knew that they set that up because, because of that scene, and when he goes to visit Walt, and he has this dream about him and the island, again, further suggesting that there's a connection between them and the island. But then it's broken. It's just broken because, it turns out 2 of those occasions are Man in Black related, and so actually, they, they're either not about Walt or they're not about Locke, and so it just feels like there's a story thread there that just somehow like transfigured into the Man in Black plot.
Yeah.
Like it should have been something that was realized, but because of the way the plot went, they just sort of seamlessly not really seamlessly, but they tried to just, graft it onto what the story actually ended up being.
Michael and Walt and Locke and the Man in Black, they, between seasons 3 and 5, including 6, like, yeah, there's some fuck ups, like where some of these characters start, their trajectory of their storyline, and where it ends up doesn't work, in a lot of little places. So yeah, it's a theme on the show.
Yeah. And it just, seeing it again just reminds me of what it was like to watch it originally, and like, have all that hope, all that innocent hope about, where that story was going, and being really interested in it. And, it's funny, like, their original thing was like, we realized Walt was getting too old, and so we were like, we got to get him off screen as soon as possible. And,
big mistake.
And that was the impetus for, having him kidnapped. But like it only served to make me more interested in Walt because it made it seem like he was really significant if the others are going out of their way to kidnap him, especially at this time.
Listen, somebody painted a picture of him inside the hatch wall. So he's got to be important. Him and Aaron both, all right? No, I really think that was a big mistake. I really think they should have just said when he was getting bigger, they should have just had Sawyer comment on it and say, taller, not Ghost Walt. Like it should have just been like, oh my God, what is this island doing to my boy? Like that's what Michael should have said. Like he's growing, and they leave it at, and they still like, get off the island or something at some point or whatever. I don't know, but. That just seemed like a mistake. Like they since if it had happened to like if it was another kid, I can understand. But since it was a kid that they're giving special qualities to, and the fact that he's growing faster than he should be in terms of the show and everything, like that could have tied into the time difference. With the time barrier, like there's all kinds of reasons in the show they could have explained that, and it could because they already have a kid who has powers. And I mean, he's not like he's going to turn into 7 feet tall, within the course of the show. It's just he's, growing, getting his growth spurts and stuff. So I think they could have worked with it, And I think what they ended up with, they took one of the most interesting developments, which is Walt and his powers. That solidifies so much of the supernatural part of the show, especially in season 1, there's not that much, he's a bulk of that really, and then whatever's going on with Locke, and that turns out to be not much. But you know what I mean? Like that's a fairly big hook, I think, that they totally scrub off the show after making it way more interesting with the others experimenting with them.
Yes.
And then they just totally, defenestrate both of them. And so,
yeah. I feel like that was a bad idea. Like if they wanted to get Walt out of the picture because they weren't going to use him anymore, I feel like they needed to like not generate intrigue about his story. You know, like that was a bad idea. I mean, on the level of like, moment to moment, I understand why they thought it was cool, but just from a long-term point of view, in terms of satisfying your viewers that watch the show over a period of time, like, it's just frustrating that that's what they chose to do.
Well, it just doesn't make any sense because the way that they put an extra spotlight on Walt was through the others, who were the ones who let him go. So it made no sense that they had found this seemingly really special kid, and they tell us that they're interested in that, and they let him go.
Right.
You know what I mean? It just doesn't align to the other, the other story points. And that's such a weird thing the show always does, is they always make these weird decisions that go counter to previous decisions and previous, like, setups. It's so strange.
It is,
because Ben should have been like, no, we want to keep Walt. He's interesting. And they're like, nah, you can have him. Just take him away. It's cool. It's cool.
Well, yeah, I know. And at the time, it was kind of disappointing. But, they throw in a throwaway line about, oh, he was more than we could handle,
Whatever.
Which, like, I know, but still, it implies, like, oh, my God, the crazy, weird, mysterious others couldn't handle Walt.
Yeah, and then they have Walt basically never do anything else with powers. He goes back to the real world. He hates Michael for a while.
Mm-hmm.
He sees Hurley. He sees Locke. And that's the rest of his life. And he never, he turns into Charlotte or somebody, one of these people who had fancy adventures on the island when they were kids and forgot about them,
You're right. That's what happened. And, that can't be what they really wanted for the outcome.
It's not what they wanted. That's not what they really wanted. That's what they settled with. But...
Yeah, exactly. Like, I guess they felt like they had to settle for that based on,
Like, I'm sure there's some universe where on Lost what happened was, instead of them deciding to write Michael and Walt off the show that way via the others, like, they basically, keep him on there. His powers keep growing, and he ends up, doing his remote viewing stuff or something, some storyline about that, and he ends up teleporting him and Michael off the island. And whoa, they're gone, and then we don't know where they went, and then a season or two later they come back and talk about what happened,
Yeah.
And, they could have. There's some universe where some version of that happened, which I think would have been more interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not even just that. Like there's side effects. Like what they chose to do with Walt.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
Ends
totally
up ruining Michael's story too.
Damning him to eternal island nation.
Yeah, like that. I mean, that just really sucks. Like, just because of this unfortunate thing about, not really planning very well, casting a young kid in a show that was set on a short timeline,
where every episode was like a day before the last.
Yeah, exactly. Just that, like, poor planning decision just leads to this one character getting, like, really screwed. I mean, he really didn't deserve that. And like it's weird. Like he ends up having to do all this stuff, and he's like, I got to get my boy back from the others, but it's like, don't blame the others, Michael. It's it's the writer's fault.
Yeah, that's like in the Bugs Bunny cartoon when the pencil comes in and draws stuff, and it's like, wait a minute. Yeah, no, he's blaming the people he can see, not the creators of his world.
But like in the end, the others didn't care about Walt that much. I mean, I don't think they gave him a second thought after they gave him up.
Well, from what we end up knowing about the others, they had no intrinsic interest in children.
Yeah.
Remember that whole, we always thought like, oh, they always want kids. They keep taking kids. Like, nah, they just know the kids aren't evil because they're kids. Like, that's the only reason they take them.
You know, it should tie in with the fertility stuff, where it's like, well, they want kids because they can't have kids. You know, they didn't quite make that connection in the show, but that should be true.
Not at all.
I mean, I don't know
why.
Any
other story would have had that be a whole thing, like they can't have kids, so they resort to taking kids.
Yeah.
You know, and Star Trek did it.
Star Trek totally did
come on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because it makes sense. I mean, you know, what else are you going to do? If you can't make your own kids, you got to get them somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they have this ready pool of like.
I love how we're advocating like child kidnapping. Like, take people's kids. What else? You have no choice. But yeah.
Just from the other's point of view, like, you know, if they really think that they should have kids and they want, you know, to continue the great line of the others.
You know what the problem is, right? Is that's not what they want. Like they're not that unified, right? They're not that unified as a group. Ben is just running it however he sees fit. He's really, he's not invested in a long lineage of others running the island. He's only interested in himself running the island for right now. So, I mean, that's part of the problem is they never had those qualities which would make these other storylines, present. So.
That's weird, man. Why did Ben care about that at all? Like why? I'm sure they had an answer about this at some point, but like, why not? If you really want your other ladies to have kids. Like, why not just, I mean, it's proven that the others come and go from the real world on a regular basis. Like, why not just load up the pregnant ladies on a sub, send them back to the, off the island and somewhere in the real world, let them have their babies, and then come right back to the island with their new babies.
Well, I think that's what they did when they needed to. But here's the problem, right? Like, what's the reason that they couldn't have babies?
Well,
we don't know.
They never tell you that.
So, I mean, I really think the reason should have been that Jacob / the island or whatever doesn't want people to have kids. Like, no one should have been able to have kids, right? Because really, if you think about it, the people that are on the island have been brought there by Jacob. They don't. Neither Jacob nor Man in Black really wants people on the island. They're only there because Jacob brings them there, and that's only to prove his point about people.
Right.
So really, Jacob has no real interest in people being there and having their own population and it getting too big and it having a whole bunch of people. What he wants is for him to go pick people out of the real world and bring them to the island. So I feel like he should have been the one to put the kibosh on the fertility.
Yeah.
And leave it at that. But then, of course, and how do you explain to people who were born on the island in the interim, right? So then they had to have an artificial cutoff date for when the fertility started.
Right.
Because otherwise you couldn't get any indigenous others on the island. So they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. But then it's like, okay, well, when did the fertility start, and then how? Like, so anyway, I'm saying all this to say, like, Ben is interested in the fertility issue because it is killing his people, but he's not interested, and these are just people who are just randomly having babies. It's not like, we never get the sense they're doing it because they need to keep their population up.
Right, it's not like a breeding program.
No, it's just people who get pregnant because they just, want to or do.
The reason anybody gets pregnant.
Yeah.
They're just like, yeah, let's, or, whatever reason it is. Mm-hmm. But, yeah,
Nothing to do on a Friday night.
I think I agree in terms of, Jacob may be wanting control. It's about the people he brings there and what they decide to do. It's not about like, oh, now they're going to have kids and make their own like society and stuff. That's the kind of thing I kind of wish. I kind of wish we could know what he thought. Like, I guess there was no time for that, or
he probably didn't even check in.
I don't know what, but like I sort of wonder. Well, like Richard is going out there recruiting Juliet, for this fertility project. I mean, he does talk to Jacob. I mean, surely he would mention that he's doing stuff like that. So it seems.
You don't see me shaking my head.
I mean, wouldn't he?
That's the question. Wouldn't he? Would he?
I mean, would he not say, like, that's the problem we're having? I had to go recruit this scientist, and it seems.
I think Richard's doing all that on his own. I don't think Richard said, "Hey, there's a guy named John Locke who came to me and said that he's the leader now, and I'm gonna go visit him." And a couple times through his he didn't ever seem to mention that to Jacob. So I'm gonna have to say, as incredulous as it sounds, he's not talking to him with these like regular. I mean, these are big matters, but I mean like. He's just not communicating with him like that. It just doesn't seem. There's no evidence that he is, and it all goes back to Jacob being very hands off, right? Like I really think.
But Richard is the intermediary. I mean, he's the guy that's supposed to.
But he's. I think intermediary is the wrong term, right? I think because intermediary means like you're the go-between between two other parties. And I don't think that's how it worked. I mean, there is some evidence to say Jacob, he had his list and he had things that he wanted, and these people were following orders.
Yeah, and I mean that's what Ben says to him. Richard came to me with your instructions and your list, and I followed your orders. And
but that's there. I mean, yes, that's there. But on the other side, we see a dearth of really Jacob being really hands off, and there's no evidence that he was learning about these people now were doing this. So Jacob, Ben did the purge, now I think this. There's all of the big events that go on that went on, in the later decades. We didn't ever get the sense that Jacob was aware or even cared. So I think that's why I say intermediate might be the wrong word. I feel like he more outsourced his role to Richard, and Richard was doing all this stuff. And I think very, very, very seldomly was Richard going back to Jacob to say anything. Because even when stuff was really going crazy on the island, he never was like, "Oh, I got to go tell Jacob. I got to go see what Jacob wants to do about this." He would handle stuff himself. So I mean I think that's partly how them just lacking the direction to write those scenes of Jacob being involved, and just so I don't know. I just think it's just more likely that he didn't know about a lot of that stuff, and I think part of it, the reason he didn't know is because he didn't care to know.
So okay, let me just go ahead and admit, yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. I don't argue with anything you just said.
Thanks and namaste.
It's all true. It's all true, folks. Yes. I agree. But the only thing I can say to that is that, it just doesn't quite add up to me. It doesn't feel like
it's not supposed to add up.
A good story. There's just something.
No.
There's something wrong about it. I mean,
yes.
First of all, I think that the idea of Richard being the go-between with Jacob, I don't think they thought of that until pretty late. So,
exactly.
So I think that's part of the problem of why he's not going to Jacob. I mean, I don't think they knew that's what he was.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's part of why this is the case, is because they never wrote those scenes he actually is doing that. He actually is going between. He actually is reporting to Jacob and saying, well, this is what happened this week, and this is what we're trying to do, and oh no, one person died from fertility, but I'll get back to you on how she does. And 2 weeks later he's like, okay, well now 2 more women are dying. It was never like they didn't even write that part of it, so they can't have it unless they write it, or later retcon and say it was true, and they didn't do either.
Well, yeah, and that's a problem. Like, the Richard flashback, doesn't tell us anything about what he did when he was in the others. Really, the only thing I have to go on is that dialogue that Ben says when he confronts Jacob. And I'm extrapolating from that what should be true, but yes, I mean, there's no evidence that it actually is true. And like, based on what the show shows us, it seems that Richard mostly just acts autonomously and makes his own decisions, and he'll quote Jacob if he feels like it, but it's not really a very close relationship. But like, I don't know, like when Ben and Locke went out to the cabin, like it's a brief line of dialogue about Richard, he doesn't see Jacob, so I kind of think that there's just part of it is just a problem with a confusion about what the relationship between all those characters is, Jacob, Richard, Ben, etc.
Yeah, that's part of it, but I mean, in that specific case, Ben is lying anyway, so you really can't take what he says with any value, because he's making all that up about.
Well, I know in the end that is the true answer, but it's just when they wrote that originally, I'm not 100% convinced that was a lie. Like I'm not.
Well, I don't know. I get the sense that when they wrote that, they know that Ben is lying. I feel like they know that Ben is lying about this encounter in the cabin, like this idea that Jacob is invisible, and only certain people can see him. I don't know. I feel like they knew he was lying about that stuff, because he's supposed to be surprised when something actually happens, right?
I think he's surprised when when stuff starts flying around. But
yeah.
but I mean,
because in that scene he is expecting nothing to happen. He's expecting to go in there and talk to an empty chair and convince Locke that he's talking to Jacob and walk out of there. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think they know that in terms of how they're writing Ben in that scene, that Ben is just lying. He's this is a whole farce, right? Like, he's not thinking that Jacob is really in there, and he's not thinking that anything's going to happen. But what actually happens is somebody is in there, and stuff does happen. So I feel like in that, I mean, maybe you have a different take on that, but I feel like that's the way it comes off. Like, they do know he's lying.
It's a bit much for me, I guess. I know that's the real answer, but when I look at that scene, it's even when stuff starts flying around, like, he goes and grabs a chair and he's like, "All right, you've had your fun." Like, he's willing to play it like he doesn't have a clue.
Yeah, he's a great at improv. I mean, yeah, he keeps it going. Like, he does it. I mean, he knows something is doing that, and he does want it to stop. But I think he is still staying sort of in character in the sense of like, you do this all the time and you've shown off, now stop it. Whereas this is the first time that's happened to him.
I just think he's not freaking out. So yeah, I think he's not freaking out the way that he should be. And the other thing is he's very interested to learn what quote unquote Jacob said. And if he has no idea what this entity is,
well, that he should be. Yeah, that he should be curious what he said, because that's what I'm saying. Think about how they frame the scene. Ben is expecting to go into an empty cabin and put on a whole performance. And what ends up happening is some entity in there is actually in there and throws stuff around and then says something only Locke hears. He's got to be interested in that. In that, with that framing in mind, I think he's got to be interested in what that guy said. Because he has been cut off from Jacob. He's never seen him before. He's never talked to him. And this whole play he's putting on turned real. And now he needs to know, like, what's going on. Because, the whole point of this is that Locke is sort of threatening his power or whatever, And so the fake deity that he was talking to that's now real, like, is talking to Locke. Yeah, he should be interested.
Right, but he is, I mean, I think he thinks that's Jacob.
He does think that's Jacob, and it's called Jacob. I mean, it's not Ben's fault in the context of that scene that they later change who's in there. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying in terms of how in the context of that scene alone, Ben does know that he's lying. I think they know he's lying when they're writing that scene. Because that's the whole point, is that he's not expecting that stuff to happen.
See, I think to me it feels more like it's at first we're supposed to think he's crazy, he's talking to an empty chair, and then once stuff starts happening, we're supposed to think, oh, there really is something there, and maybe he's not crazy. And I feel like the big point of that scene is Jacob is favoring Locke over Ben. He's telling him a message that he's concealing from Ben. And
I mean, but that's the point, but that's not the real point, right? Because that's just not what's really going on in that scene. That is the way it's supposed to come across, but that's not really what's going on.
Yeah, and but yes, in the end, that's true. But I just think sort of in the original incarnation, it just feels to me more like that's what's going on. The point of the scene is that actually Jacob, is trying to get this message out to Locke and conceal it from Ben. And,
yeah, but that doesn't negate the fact that Ben knows, or at least believes, nothing is in the cabin. Now, unless you're saying he thought Jacob was really in there and he was proven right, and then of course they later changed it to he wasn't in there.
Yes.
But I'm saying I believe that he's going into that cabin knowing nothing's in there, knowing that this is not where Richard goes to talk to Jacob, knowing that he's just going to put on a show for Locke, and what ends up happening is the show becomes real.
Yes. I'm not denying that's the real answer. I'm sort of questioning whether that was the original answer.
I see. That's what I'm saying. I feel like that's the original answer to me. Like, I feel like it would make sense that Ben would do that. Now, in order for that to be the original answer, it has to be true at that point in their storytelling that Ben has never seen Jacob.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Okay, and then there's the surrounding circumstantial stuff that again makes me think that Jacob, that Ben really thought Jacob was there and so on. And that's, the ash circle around the cabin, the fact that Alana goes there to try to meet Jacob, I feel like there's indications within the show that, like, in some real sense, Jacob was in there. And that lends some validity. And then there's another question of, well, if Ben's totally making up, I mean, are we supposed to believe he just randomly, was like, I found this cabin. I just know about this, like, Horace showed him it or something. Like, it's just some random place.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be, like, because...
Like, what does he think about that ash circle? Like, does he have... I mean, the others know what that ash is, because, I mean,
yeah, they do.
They come out with it at the end. Like,
well, you can't really answer... I feel like that's a question that's hard to answer because they change their mind on what the answer is. Because it goes back to, well, who's in the cabin?
Right.
And so that's the pretzel right there. I feel like Ben... if it's true in the context, not sort of looking at what they eventually say, but in the context of how we originally see that scene, if either Ben thinks this is where Jacob lives or he doesn't, right? It's either one or the other.
It is, yeah.
And I think there's very little evidence for Ben to think that that's where Jacob lives. Like, I think, it would make no sense that Richard goes there, because from what we've seen, Richard always goes to the statue. Now, yes, later they say Alana went to the cabin and she expected to find Jacob there. That's, you got to look at that separately, because there's a production reason why she's doing that too. So there's various factors with that. But just in the context of Ben going in the original cabin scene, like, if he doesn't know that if he thinks Jacob is not in there, this is just an old cabin. It's got an ash circle around it for some other reason, or there was some history that it was there for some reason.
There's at least some others that know that the ash circle is to keep out the smoke monster.
Yeah. I mean, but then you could go in to say, well, why? If Ben thinks that Jacob is in there, then the ash circle is there to protect Jacob. If he doesn't think that Jacob's in there, then I don't know what he thinks about that ash circle.
Right. So it feels to me like, I know it's not true. I know it's not a real. That's the problem with talking about it like this. Like, it's the real answer is different from what I'm saying. But it feels to me like, he knows that Jacob is supposed to be there, or at least that's a place where Jacob is sometimes, and maybe he hasn't met him before, and he's not expecting he'll be there right now, but he's going to go in there and pretend that he's there, and it turns out that he is there. But he favors Locke. He gives Locke a message that he conceals from Ben. It feels to me like that's what's going on in that scene.
But it's like he even says Jacob doesn't like technology, but he's making that up. Like, there's no, even from what they eventually say, there's no reason why he's saying that. That's why I feel like he knows he's lying. Like, they're writing that scene as if he's making this all up. Because I think it's better dramatically. Like, as a general story, I think it's better your way. Like, this is where, it fits more pieces better. The ashes around the cabin because that's where Jacob is. They're trying to protect him. He's going to go here and show Locke, blah, blah, blah. Like, that does work, but in terms of just the scene, I think the drama is better if he's expecting nothing to happen and then something happens. And then on top of that...
I agree. What I'm saying is I think he knows Jacob is there sometimes. He's not expecting he'll be there now, but it's an authentic place. Like, he's taking him to an authentic place.
But there's no – I mean, but what would make him think Jacob's not – like, what would make him think this is after hours for Jacob? Like, there's no easy way to say – like, it just – what would make him think that Jacob is either A, not there all the time, or B, not there now?
I feel like
I just feel like he's gambling if he doesn't have any criteria to base that on.
Well, I just feel like he doesn't know where Jacob is in general, so he doesn't have any particular reason to think he's going to be there. I mean, I think.
Wait, but I thought you were saying he expected him to be there.
No.
Like
no. He's going to a place where he does go.
You're saying he's going to a place where he is known to have been.
Yes.
Okay, not a place that he lives, but because I feel like if he thinks he lives there, then it doesn't work.
Right. Yeah. No. I don't think he thinks. I mean, it's hard to say because obviously this is all stuff that's not really true. But like, I feel like at the time, he thinks it's a place he is known to have been at some time.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he, I don't know, maybe he saw Richard going there or something. Whatever the story's supposed to be, it's hard to say because I feel like there's a little different idea going on there than what they tell us later. But for whatever reason, he believes that Jacob has been there. Then he's going to take Locke there. His plan is to pretend that Jacob's there and that he's talking to him. But then he's surprised to find out Jacob actually is in there, and not only that, he's talking to Locke, not Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what I feel like. I mean, the story is.
The only difference between your version and my version is whether or not he thinks Jacob is there, and I'm just saying that I don't think he thinks Jacob is there at all. I think he knows he's going to go put on a performance. And he's not expecting anything to happen. He's expecting to, like I said, go in there, talk to a chair, and walk out. I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, but at the same time, I think he's bringing him to a place that will stand up to scrutiny. It's a place where Jacob actually has been.
Mm-hmm.
So if Locke becomes a leader later and wants to meet Jacob, maybe he'll be taken there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just your version. Jacob is a little more likely to be there. In my version, he's like, or I should say, not that he's more likely to be there, but that Ben is thinking he's likely to be there.
But I feel like that's sort of the story. Like, Ben ends up thinking that Jacob has chosen Locke to replace him. You know, and that's what leads to him like submitting, you know, or what's the word? Giving up the leader position, giving it to Locke, and leaving the island, saying, "I hope you're happy now, Jacob." You know, I feel like the whole time he thinks Jacob really is in that cabin and really is talking to Locke.
The cancer had something to do with that too.
Well, sure. Sure, yeah. But you know, I mean, they go back to the cabin a second time, and Locke has another message, ostensibly from Jacob. You know, so I feel like Ben continues to believe that, you know, Jacob.
Well, yeah. I mean, he does end up thinking that that's Jacob. Yeah, I'm not denying that. I mean, because it's clear he does.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just feel like he started out thinking, oh, I'll go in here, like you said, after hours, and put on a little show, pretend he's invisible. Locke's not going to be able to see him, and then it'll be like, oh, well, you're obviously not special, you know.
Yeah, you can't see him.
Yeah, like I do think that part of the deception was his plan, but you know, something actually being there. You know, what he believes is actually Jacob is there, and not only that, favoring Locke. You know, I feel like that's where his character ends up, developing that extra. He's already jealous of Locke. He becomes even more jealous of Locke at that point.
Yeah. All right, well, enough cabin talk. Jeez, it's the black hole of conversation, I swear, of lost conversation, man. It's just...
For an episode that has zero to do with the cabin.
Nothing to do with the cabin.
It really is like, you know.
And no matter how much you talk about it, we never get any closer to making peace with it.
I hate to even argue about it because, like, obviously the only reason we have an argument about it is that the story of the cabin is so, like, completely ill-conceived. It's like, it has so many pieces that just don't make sense or fit together in any way. And, you know, if that weren't the case, then we probably, you know, we wouldn't have... We wouldn't have to have an argument about what was going on in the cabin.
Yeah.
But I only said that to say that, you know, what was my... I don't even remember what my original point was. I had an original reason why I brought it
up. Well, you were right, whatever that reason, whatever your point was, it's totally correct.
All right, good.
All right, everyone. Well, join us next time. We'll be talking about the Season 1 finale, and we'll be done with Season 1 commentary series.
Yay!
Awesome. Till next time, thanks and namaste.
Namaste and good luck.